What's up, y'all? It's your girl Jazz, aka the Story Maestro, and welcome to our first official lesson of adjusting the lens, understanding, and utilizing narrative distance. In this first lesson, I'm going to be introducing you to narrative distance. You may have a concept already, however, let's go over some things so that you can get a good understanding so that you can effectively apply it. This goes for anything in your life. In order for you to effectively apply it, you have to have an understanding and knowledge of it. Other than that, it might just be kind of everywhere, and that's what we don't want. We want to avoid it not being used properly and not being grasped into having a good concept of how to use it, when to use it, where to use it, and how it impacts your reader and the characters in your story, actually, and all other things, but we'll get into that later. So for starters, what's narrative distance? In its simplest form, narrative distance is the distance between the narrator and the reader. How close or how far the reader is from the narrator. Are they sitting on the narrator's shoulder? Are they like super close up with the narrator? Are they just super far? Like, are they just seeing like everything from a distance and they're just kind of getting a couple of things? So think of it as a camera lens. Hint, adjusting the lens. You are either zooming in or you're zooming out. And depending on how close you are and how far you are will have an impact on your reader, on how they process things, how they feel about it, and what they are actually grasping when it comes to what is being told in the story. Zooming out presents your readers a big picture perspective, which ultimately encompasses multiple occurrences on a very large scale. You're getting the person down the street, you're getting the person right next to you, you're getting how big the sky might be, just all the things, but again, on a large scale. So that means that a lot of your details will be loosely interpreted, meaning there won't be intricate details at all. It's just going to be like, yep, there's a house and there's a lawn. It's not going to say, hey, they have a specific type of grass, but lilies growing out of it and this, that, and the other. It's going to be just very like, hey, there you go. On the other hand, when you zoom in, you're now permitted to the intricate details of what's going on. This can be something as simple as if a person has a ring on their finger and the diamond cut that they have. You will zoom in on certain things like that, especially if the ring matters in the story. Or the smell of the rose, how velvety the petals felt, and if it really smelled like, well, we know what roses really smell like, but you get what I'm saying. Or like I said before, you can be so close to the character that you're gonna get their inner monologue. So you're gonna readily get their feelings, emotions, thought processes regarding whatever is going on around them. So it can be a conversation, it can be that they just fell and their knee really hurts, but you're gonna get those immediate thoughts and reactions. Therefore, you are inside the mind of the narrator or the narrated. All that to say, there are levels to this. If you're unfamiliar with narrative distance and writing in general, you might be thinking, did you mean POV? Quick answer, no, absolutely not. They are not the same thing, but they do both have something to do with perspective. So yes, they both have to do with perspective, but they differ in psychological aspects. This is why I believe that narrative distance is used interchangeably as psychic distance. So if you hear psychic distance or narrative distance, same thing. So psychic distance because it has a lot to do with the mental portion of the processing of the story. So narrative distance is based on how close or distant the character's perspective is, while point of view is based on who is telling the story and from what vantage point. Point of view will never change. However, psychic distance is going to be on a sliding scale, and we'll talk about that later. But when I say sliding scale, they'll either be, very close or very far. Remember, we are zooming in or we're zooming out. We have a lens that we can correct. Point of view, you cannot change, or you can change that, but it's not recommended. POV, it's either going to be in first person, third person limited, third person omniscient, second person, and another. But you will not be, or rather, it is not recommended that you are switching POVs throughout the story. That does not mean that you cannot switch who the POV is from. Let's draw back on that, right? That does not mean that you cannot switch who the POV is from. So if you have character A, B, and C, and you want those three people to be the narrators, that's fine. A, B, and C can be narrators. However, don't say that A is first person, B is third person, and C is second person. I think that is when it's going to be a really bad hiccup, and it's probably going to distract your readers on how to encompass your story. Again, we don't want those things. We want them to be zoomed in all the way. We know who it's coming from, and this is how it's going to be delivered. For example, you have Kingdom of Copper. That is a third-person POV with multiple narratives. With Kingdom of Copper, we have Dara, Ali, and Nari. Only in City of Brass, it was Nari and Ali. But again, Kingdom of Copper, that's three perspectives. But again, it's third person. It's not changing the type of point of view, but it is changing who the POV is coming from. Yes? Okay. Again, POV is who is telling the story. And again, narrative distance is based on how close or how far the reader is from the narrator's perspective. Now, because I just gave you all that, we have to dive deeper into the more in-depth definition of narrative distance. Narrative distance is the distance between the narrator and the reader. Simple, right? A more detailed description is narrative distance refers to the perceived closeness or distance between the narrator and the events, characters, and other psychological aspects of the story. I know, it's a lot. I'm sorry. But you guys got to know this. So we're not just taking it in from reader, we're taking it in from the narrator as well and how close they are from the story. Because as the reader, we're seeing it through the narrator's eyes. So if we're seeing it through the narrator's eyes, if the narrator is very close or very far, then that's when we get either details or we don't get details. But it's also how close is the narrator to the events? How close are they to the characters and the psychological aspects? And when I say how close, this does not limit it to spatial closeness. It does not mean, oh, are they standing right next to me? No, how close are they to the character? Because if you're doing romance and you're trying to create an intimate scene, a connection with character to character, they are not just, it's not just going to be because they're standing close to each other. It's going to be because there's going to be a connection there. And in order to create a connection, you're going to have to dive very, very deep. And that is a psychological aspect of narrative distance or psychic distance. The objective of story writing is typically to tell the story, not only tell the story, but to draw the reader in, whether it is a negative or positive situation, no matter what. And then you're trying to invoke a reaction. So in order to do that, you're fishing. You're saying, hey, are you going to come in or are you going to go out? Which one is it? But it is also up to you to do that because you are the teller of the story. See what I did there? You are in charge. So keep in mind that you are playing the creator of this. So whatever you want to happen is going to happen because you said so and you have the capacity to do it and to control it. So again, if narrative distance is the closeness between the narrator and the events and characters and psychological aspects of the story, that means that it can be how close is the narrator to character, character to character, character to event, narrator to event. So many different ways to be close and be far. But keep in mind, it is more than just narrator to reader. All the things. I know. We're going to get into this. Don't fret. I got your back. Let's do this. So narrative distance's objective is to strategically control the level of emotional and intellectual proximity between the narrator or the narrated or whoever and the character's events and, settings within the story. With narrative distance, again, you are going to be on a sliding scale and it is up to you on when to zoom in and zoom out because there will be things that you may want to keep from your reader. And if you are too close in half the time, the reader might say, well, why wasn't that revealed before? So that's going to be up to you to shift and navigate the story so that they're not paying attention to this thing and they're paying attention to the other. And it's just all the things. Granted, that might also fall in line with stuff like an unreliable narrator. Just going to drop little tidbits in here for you if you need them just in case, and we'll go from there. I think in order to effectively process how this operation works, just think of it as the process of consumption. Story, narrator, reader. There's going to be a way that the reader consumes everything, and it's going to be that they're reading the story, and then of course it's going to be through the lens of the narrator, and then it's going to impact them because they may be heavily influenced by the narrator, right? It's already going to go through so many filters before it hits the reader. So it's going to be up to you, the narrator, to control what filters the story goes through. Again, with narrative distance. A lot of that is going to probably be based on stuff like diction, style, tone, and more. So this doesn't mean to give everything away. Of course, we will always have a lot of suspense in the story because of the unknown. But when it comes to things like story beats, leave no room for guessing. Let it just happen and flow. And with the unknown, let that be a surprise to your reader. For example, the battle that had taken place in order to crown the new Black Panther in Marvel's Black Panther. This was inevitable when the death of T'Chaka happened. However, it was not inevitable for there to be a rematch due to a blood relative not being granted the chance to fight T'Challa. And then the fact that T'Challa accepted the challenge made things all the more suspenseful, because we already know that Killmonger was, well, he had some kills under his belt. We seen his body. The markings, you guys, don't go there. We seen them, so we knew that he was prepared for battle. But did T'Challa know that? No, it's just a big red flag, and I just remember holding my breath. We saw that the battle happened, just to crown the Black Panther. I mean, hey, we didn't even know that M'Baka was gonna come, right? But we knew that anybody could show up because it's Challenge Day. What we did not know is that someone would show up after Challenge Day and say, I did not get my fair chance. But again, that is because we have now stuck to story beats and left it open for anything to happen and not telling too much of the story. What's up, Word Warriors? Thank you so much for watching. I hope that you really enjoyed. Make sure to like and comment. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer. And make sure that you subscribe so that you know when the second video for Adjusting the Lens, Understanding and Utilizing Nerve Distance is posted.